All right. Justin Franson here with one of my good friends, Patrick Porter. Dr. Porter's just one of the most brilliant minds in the space of between your ears, literally. I've worked with his products from Mind Spa, one of his first early brainchilds, and saw how incredible it was for quieting your mind, allowing your body to be free and in the moment and present and aware and alert and conscious and creative, everything that we're looking for what freedom really is. And so on our Urban Freedom Summit, Patrick, I'm so excited to have you speak and share your wisdom. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Justin, for having me here, because it's so important that people understand that sacred space between our ears. That 6 inches is the difference between health and sickness. Regardless of what else you do, you have to work with that. You know, the physiology and the psychology have to be matched to have a powerful inner state of freedom, so nothing external can knock you off your game, because, you know, as Buddha said, all unhappiness stems from unfavorable comparisons. So what are we thinking about and bringing about in our life is really important.
Oh, it's such a huge pillar. So let's talk about the brain wave states, alpha, theta, delta, you know, all the different states and on. Share with us what those states are and talk a little bit, we start to weave in BrainTap, your technology, the product that you sell, like one of the biggest selling, hottest selling products anywhere in the country, how it helps people get them there quicker.
Right. I just noticed my light wasn't on. Let's talk first about what's hijacking. The brainwave that we get hijacked on is called beta. Beta stimulates dopamine. Dopamine is responsible for shutting down our memory systems and our creative circuitry. So if you have too much beta, then this is what happens. You get stressed out. You create more of this cortisol. It's shutting down the body's natural ability to function. Now, if there's a good balance between that and the alpha state, I call the beta state the reactionary mind. So if you think about a special forces person, they need to have high beta because they're on red alert. They're always active and going. But that's why they have such bad PTSD when they get out, because the brain's not designed to operate like that. We're designed to have periods of high stress, but then periods of deep relaxation. So now some people can't move off that beta because they're so stressed out. And one of the biggest triggers for that is mainstream media. I mean, that's the worst thing for our brain, because number one, it's not factual. And number two, that you can't do anything about it. So you're listening to all this information, and so many people, my grandparents and parents specifically, and some people still do this today, before they go to bed, they watch the late night news. That's probably the worst thing, because what you're doing in beta brain, your other brainwaves that I'm going to talk about process during your nighttime experience. It takes everything you think is important. And how does it know that? You're spending time on it. So whatever you spend time on, the brain says, that must be important to Justin. You know, he's watching the news before sleep. So that must be the most important thing. So all that fear and anxiety gets baked into their belief system. So going forward, it happens. Now, how do we avoid that? We have to have periods of shutting down. And this is where BrainTap comes in. We start to shut down the brain in a way that we start to tune out beta and we turn on alpha. So that's the first brainwave you need to train. Alpha is the place where most people go when they meditate. Alpha is your intuitive mind. So if you think about when you have that creative idea, or you're up against the wall, you know what to do, and you get this breakthrough thinking, that typically comes from the alpha theta brainwave. And I'm going to explain theta in just a moment. So when you think about alpha, think about it as that daydreaming, relaxed state that you were told in school wasn't good. Where's your attention? But our brain operates this way. That's why almost every super successful entrepreneur has ADD. Because our brain is not designed to stay focused on something, you know, all day long. I mean, they say now that our attention span is that of a goldfish. I don't know if I heard that from you or somebody, but somebody was telling me that it was at one of the wake up events, and I went, that's probably true. A goldfish has about 3-second attention span. And when you think about what's going on. So when we're in that alpha, we need to have our brain will go from this thought to that thought, and that's perfectly natural. But if we haven't fed that part of the brain positive thoughts, what we call positive psychology or outcome-based thinking, then the brain starts to catastrophize around all the negatives. And that's the worst thing that can happen to somebody, because then we start planning disaster. We need to be prepared for disaster, but we need to plan for ultimate success, peace, and harmony. The brain does. You have to have both sides of the equation. Now, theta is probably up until gamma, which I'll talk about in a minute. Theta used to be the magic. Everybody would talk about theta wellness, get somebody into theta. That's because theta is really tuned into our parasympathetic. This is our thriving brain and nervous system. Very few people, and I'm going to say almost nobody, and somebody out there is going to say, I go to theta all the time and I meditate. Well, I challenge you next time I'm in the area to come by and see me, because I have technology that can measure it. And I've only seen 2 people on earth so far. And that means gurus and everything, when I traveled to India, that have been able to create a high amount of theta on their own without a device like BrainTap. One thing we know, BrainTap can do it with 100% of the people, 100% of the time, after 3 times of using BrainTap, because it's brain entrainment. And we're doing that through light, sound, and vibration. So I'm going to get back to that in a moment. But when we're doing that now, delta is a brainwave state. Unfortunately, when we do those brain scans, Justin, around the world, we've done about 30,000 scans in the last 10 years. Almost 90% or more of the people we measure, their predominant brainwave is delta when they're awake. So we've all heard the expression, the masses are asleep. We've actually validated that. The masses are asleep, or at least they want to be. And the reason for that is the high delta says 2 things. One, they either had a traumatic brain injury recently, or they have high inflammation in their body. And what we're talking about here, with all these things going on, from all these stressors, all these toxins, from internally to externally, it's causing inflammation that is driving our network, our physiological network. Now, the one that has now come on the scene, because we all are getting better looking and more intelligent with age, so people are looking at gamma. Gamma is a brainwave state that they used to think was psychotic. And now what we know is it's a high state of super consciousness, really. Healers, really artistic artists. I've scanned people who are surgeons, top of their field. They all have a high degree of gamma activity. Gamma is the bass drum of the system. So if you don't have a lot of gamma, you can't break down amyloid plaque. The brain needs to cleanse. So we need, on one end, we need gamma to break it all up. We need to be able to sleep deep and get deep delta sleep, which is the only time the glial lymphomic system of the brain opens up and we detox. So we need all 5 of these brain waves. And actually there's others, there's like 16 of them, but we only talk about 5 of them. Those 5 are the primary ones that we want to look at and train to, because gamma is really good. Like a lot of people are doing a psilocybin, plant-based medicines, things like this. And that's how we started to research at BrainTap. People were having a psilocybin trips without a psilocybin, because your brain has those receptors in the brain, just like opioid. When we did our research with Brazil, where they're replacing opioids with BrainTap, because we can trigger those opioid receptors in the brain by increasing the alpha theta brainwave. And then those receptors open up and they begin to produce those opioid responses or pain-free states.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not into nootropics or chemically derived substances to get you there. You can do it through sound, light, frequency, like breath work, attention. Like you can get there. And yes, it's more challenging for the layman to get there, but that's why we use these sound devices to take you there quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me tell the audience a little bit about how you train the brain, because a lot of people might be saying, what do you mean brain fitness, brain training? Well, our ears hear 25,000 pieces of information every second. So nobody really has poor hearing. They have poor filtering. Everyone hears everything. Because if you and I were sitting in a restaurant eating, and somebody 3 tables down talks about EMF or 5G, all these things, we would both hear that because it's part of our reticular activating system. But we filter out those things we don't want to hear. So it's kind of like those social media programs that we only really hear what we want to hear, or our brain serves up information that we want. So that's why doing these meditations or getting into these altered states are important, because we need to open the filters. What are we missing in our reality? Our eyes see over 2,000 pieces of information every second. but both of these only act on 40 pieces of information. So what's going on with all that other information that's going on? We have to slow down. Our life is happening so fast that we have to get out of that beta brain that's basically our subconscious, which Bruce Lipton says 95% of our life is controlled by our subconscious. That's because it's hardwired. You know, our body is hardwired to take certain actions to preserve us. It's not a negative. It's just the way we've evolved. Now we know we can alter that by improving consciousness and the way we think about ourselves and our reality, and make it more fun to be in this world. Then we don't have as many. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to be stressed. Obviously, we can focus on those, but there's also a lot of reasons to be happy. This is the best time on earth to be alive. I mean, look at the solutions we have around us.
Oh, definitely. And a lot of my whole world for athleticism.com was really based on whole body, whole brain entrainment, and doing things. When we're doing speed drills, we're doing semicircles and figure eight. So non-linear patterns, really getting that whole brain to work. And you stay in the moment when you have to do this stuff, and teaching people how to juggle. These are simple exercises that when you're really in the moment, that brainwave state is in that alpha state, right?
Right. And what most people don't know is after you do all of that, that's when you have the most neuroplasticity, but you have to relax. When we did our program with Kansas City Sport, which was a soccer team, we showed them that we could help them recover in 20 minutes, what would usually take 4 hours to 12 hours, depending upon the person. And that's when you can build in that neuroplasticity, because all that movement you just did, exercise, cross crawls, all those kind of things you would do, your brain is lit up. So you've stressed out your brain, not just your muscles. Now it's time to build that recovery. Recovery is the missing art of wellness right now. And I think people are realizing that, because since the 70s in this positive thinking movement, everybody wants it now. They want it free. They want it, they want to give affirmations that it's supposed to instantly manifest and be delivered by Amazon in your front porch before the morning. And the reality is that we have to have downtime as well as uptime to really build in that freedom that we really want with our thinking and the way our body responds.
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe even though Lance Armstrong was, using steroids, I think he probably had some of the best recovery protocols. Like, he would go into the tent and go into these brainwave states with sound and light, and lay down on his back, his legs up at 90. I call that the restorative pose, and get yourself into these lower brainwave states instantly. And everyone else is like taking pictures and high-fiving everyone. Hey, I did it. We're good. And they're just amped up for hours. And so he would have 12 hours of recovery, on somebody that was still, in that fight mode.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's so important that they put in a 20-station brain tapping room at Kansas City Sport when we showed them the evidence. Most people don't have that, but if you have a heart rate variability, you can test it for yourself. You can, any HRV will show you that.
Well, I don't know if you remember the name Sue Enquist, but she was one of the winningest softball coaches in the history of NCAA sports at UCLA. I don't even know how many titles she won, but she started winning huge when she started your first product in with her team. And their grades, literally, B students would get A's, C's would get B's, less unforced errors, less mistakes. These are simple things. And I saw it with our years of athletes and then myself. And then now doing so much Tai Chi and Qigong and breath work and integrating these frequencies and sound, that you have how many tracks in your brain tap?
Right. We have 1,800 now, but I wanted to say Seminole College, if you look it up, they actually gave us a page on their website now, and they found out the same thing. We helped their golf team. They're 3 years in a row national champions. So, and they actually use brain tap as a recruitment tool, because they're telling them they can help them with mental awareness and mental health, as well as help them in sports. So now they're using it with the other sports programs.
I love it. I mean, this is the pillar of performance, you guys. And the pillar of performance, you break it down, is health. And then health is, your body, your chemistry, and then definitely mental, physical, emotional, so, and structural. Those are the components of it. So when you have that mental component, which is one of the main ones, one of the main three: mental, structural, biochemical. Yeah, and you're going to have yourself to feel free again. You're going to be able to get into those states where you're just so present and can create and stay connected above and connect to that infinite flow of abundance that I like to call. I mean, this is a universal rhythm that Brain Tap will get you in, that you found and put in over 1,000 different tracks to take people there. I mean, it's one of our favorite products that you can go to.
Yeah. And each one is different. And that's why the neuroplasticity happens, because the brain can't have just one way to do anything. If it only has one way, then we call that a phobia. So you need to have choices, which at times is a dilemma. But if you have two or more choices, now the brain has the ability to be flexible. What's important about the brain is the most flexible part of a system controls the system. So if you can have a positive mindset and you don't give away your happiness to someone else, so many people, it's almost like they're wearing a breastplate or a remote control, and they give away that remote control to everybody. Are they feeling happy today or sad today? We need to control our own emotional state so that we can, basically seize the moment, seize the day. What are we really living this life for? It's to have joy and happiness and, build something that might be a legacy for our family or friends, or just to have a great day to day. I mean, we're designed to have fun and have joy in our life, not constant memory, regardless of what the religions say. The reality is that these bodies are designed for, that's why we're all running toward pleasurable things. Unfortunately, a lot of them are destructive to the body. So we have to look at, are they pleasurable for real, or is just a facade? Like eating white sugar, for instance, it's pleasurable for a moment, but then your body crashes and you get the sugar blues. Now, if those people that have addictions to sugar don't think about long term, they look about short term. So we need to develop in our mind, and that's why where meditation, brain tapping comes in, is we teach people to look at the days, the weeks, the months to come. What is your real plan of action? Just like a good business plan, you want to know what's going on, and if you just live your life with blinders on, you're going to get blindsided. But when you're sitting in that meditation, you're getting into that altered state, you can really focus on what's important and meaningful to you. Your physiology doesn't know the difference between real or imagined when your brain's thinking it. So you're actually rehearsing at an inner level that manifests on the physical plane in a way that is joy. And when things are synchronicity, when people say, wow, I had a God wink or synchronicity, that's mainly because the person has spent the time thinking about the future. Deepak Chopra said it best. He said, 95% of what's going to happen to us tomorrow, we know about today. So what are we pretending not to know? It's just the people who haven't slowed down and visualized how do you want to do it? How do you want to pre-plan your successes for tomorrow with your relationships, with your workout, with your food, all of these things that are going to, then you have freedom. If you're not, then you're basically being pulled around. My favorite teacher, Richard Bandler, who started NLP, he said that most people are running their life like Freddy Krueger's driving the bus, and they're handcuffed to the back and they have no choice. And our job is to tell them, you're not handcuffed. You got the key in your pocket. Take off the handcuffs, go kick Freddy Krueger off the bus and take the bus where you want to go. And that's really when you talk about freedom, it's a series of choices we make. And I think everyone has that innate ability to make good choices for themselves if they really tune in.
Oh, I love it. Now, I have a question for you. And it's leading, and we haven't talked about this at all personally. And for those that don't know, I know Patrick well, and we're always at a lot of big events together, sharing our various products, and have a really solid network that all love our same products with really similar mindset of being free and understanding what body sovereignty is. And I wanted to ask about some of your ways that you're planning, for your next day, your next month, your next year. So I've actually rolling out a new calendar. It's called the Super Year Calendar, and I will send you one when we get it done. And it is a 3-foot by 4-foot year at a glance calendar. On one side, you flip it over. The back side is everything that you're talking about intention and goal setting and gratitude lists and really creating what you're wanting. So what are some of the things that you do to keep you on track with the massive success that you're having?
Well, the main thing my wife and I do is every year on our anniversary, we spend 2 days rewriting our goals for the year. We take about a half a day to look at what happened last year, but we've been checking up on those every week. So, and usually, and they're in my calendar actually. So when I'm on the airplane or I'm sitting in traffic or whatever, I can just go there and I review my goals. If it's not daily, it's pretty close to every day, because you have to keep them in front of you. There's too many other things that get you off track. And I'm setting goals for the main things in my life. My health is main. If I don't have health, because I've had a point in time in my life when I didn't have the health that I wanted. So health is important. And I spend no less than 2 hours every morning before I ever even look at my phone. I don't have a cup of coffee first thing in the morning. In fact, I believe if you have coffee first thing in the morning, you have a dysregulated nervous system. You need to, if I will usually have a cup of coffee around 10 o'clock in the morning, or maybe later. Some days I actually forget to have coffee, but I like coffee, so I like to have it about that time. But I want to get my nervous system going, and that involves, I'm still practicing TM, so I do that every morning. I do my brain tap every morning. I do my I travel with my resistance bands if I'm not where I can use a real workout facility. So every day I've got to do that, because I just know it will happen. I'm always looking at every day when I'm home. If I'm at home in New Bern, every day I create something that's going to outlive me. That's why we have 1,800 sessions, because I have either recordings, I'm writing, I'm doing something that's going to outlive me, because I know life is short. It's not guaranteed, and there's no day given. You've got to live your life as if, you got to live your life as if today's your last day, but plan it as if you're going to live forever. And if you don't do that, then you're not taking advantage of what's happening. I then will take one of the things I'm working on more, that over the last 4 years, is spending more time with my family and having fun. I bought a boat 4 years ago. So now, of course, I'm pressed into it by my grandkids to spend more time because they want to go out on the boat. But I figure out things that are going to allow me to have fun. I'm a Leo, so having fun and playing games is important. And I find if I don't do that, so I have everything from, of course, we have business goals and we're looking at those and we're always building. And I'm very fortunate that I have a business that is always growing and I make money when I sleep. It used to be what we make in a day used to be what I wanted to make in a month. And pretty soon what we make in a day will be what I used to make in 3 months, and because it's just building across the world. And I think that when you add value, and I'm one of those guys that I don't ever look at failure as failure. I look at failure as, how do I need to reassess what I'm doing? Because as long as my intention's right, and then my actions are following through. You can't have intentions without action. So if those are two together and you don't get the results you want, you got to change something. You don't have to change your intention, but you do have to change your action to make it work. And sometimes, like what we did in the 80s, we were ahead of our time. I mean, now everybody seems to be in this. Larry Minikis, who's the one who put together the UCLA program, and or Paul Donner, one of those that were out in California working. They've been with us since the 80s. I mean, these are the guys they're still doing it. So there's not a lot of us left, because there wasn't a lot of money in the early days. I found a way to do it by building a franchise company, but my intention was, this technology helped me. I want to get it out to the world, and I'm still doing that today. Actually, somebody they knew me in the 80s, and they go, "You're still doing the same thing. Don't you get bored with it?" I said, "No, I don't. I still don't believe I'm working. I think this is the funnest job I could ever have, is seeing the light bulbs go on in people's heads and saying, hey, you mean I'm not destined to be an alcoholic? I'm not destined to be a smoker. I'm not destined to be overweight. This is freedom. If you think the number one law of psychology states you can't be a behavior. If you are still locked into the belief that you're an alcoholic, God help you. You're not. You're an infinite being with infinite possibilities. Now, you have a program that's really strong. It might even be genetic, but that program can be overcome with the right food, the right body movement, the right thoughts. Those three things have to be in alignment, and a spiritual connection, I believe.
Oh, definitely. Now, I mean, you said a lot there, and I love it all. One of the things that I wanted to share, and I know you're a huge proponent of and have them all over the house, is our grounding bags from EMF Rocks. But But the big thing is that you're grounded, like when you're doing this stuff. Like this is a big part of it. So share with me and our listeners. I mean, all day I'm sharing about how grounding and earthing connects you to that Schumann resonance, that 7.83 hertz, which is a theta brainwave state. Like, how do you get there, and how does Brain Tap, and how many tracks do you have that will bring you to that state, and how important is it?
Right. Well, it's super important to ground, especially if you have a voltometer. You'll notice you have about 3 volts of energy coursing through your veins. You should be at 0 point. That's the way. If we could go back in time and measure the caveman, there'd be no voltage in his body because he's running around barefoot on the earth. We've done it before we're outside. You could measure people by a 5G tower, and they can get up to 7 volts of energy moving through their body. You have them take their shoes off, stand on the earth, and it's 0 again. That's how important grounding is. Now, where I'm sitting right here, I'm standing on a grounding mat, and I have a grounding pad under my keyboard because Clint Oper is a good buddy of mine. But there's a lot of other sources. We have your bags. I got with you because we put in solar, and I put 10 bags in my attic, and then my little meter, which I keep with me all the time because I want to measure, hey, what's going on? How is this affecting my physiology? We put them under, especially when you talked about the electric vehicles, it changed my wife. My wife has the Volvo, so we put 4 bags in the front area, and that canceled out that problem with the EMF. And she doesn't get headaches anymore when she's driving her car. So there's a lot of different issues like that are going on. And I think that if you don't have the technology, then you got to get outside. You got to get sunlight too. Sunlight is really important. Every cell has what they call chromophores, and all the light that we're exposed to, our body's absorbing. Now, some of that light, just like there's toxic food, there's toxic light. And it's not just blue light. That's kind of a misnomer. It's just energy. But there's a lot of dirty energy, like from the screens we have to the lights. And that's where things like the EMF rocks come in, because we need something that's going to break that up. If we don't, then that frequency, most people don't realize, if we were on a spaceship going toward Earth, the Earth would have a frequency between 0.5 and 100. Our brain has that same frequency, 0.5 to 100. And our brain is designed to match its frequency. That's why, just like a hummingbird or a homing bird, we live close to water because we know our body needs water. But our body knows that. That's why 95% of people live close to a body of water. So, and it's just still intuitive what we have. The same is true. We intuitively know we need to ground. But what happens is when people start to feel bad physiologically and then emotionally, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It feeds bad foods, it feeds bad habits. And we got to break that pattern. Just like anything we do, at first it can be difficult, but once we form a habit, good habits are just as hard to break as bad habits. So we need to form those good habits. And I love the book, Atomic Changes, because we want to make little changes every day. You don't have to make wholesale changes like bulldoze your house and build it appropriately. You can use the house that you have, just put in the EMF rocks and other things you can to protect yourself. Oop, you're silent. I'm not hearing you, Justin.
Sorry about that. I had some background noise, but this is what a high performer does, literally, to have an urban freedom environment and be able to fly all across the country every single week. I mean, you're on a plane more than most people, right?
Well, I leave tonight for Houston, then I'm going to be in San Diego, then I'm going to be in Phoenix, then I'm going to be in San Antonio, all in the next 9 days. And I do carry a bag of your rocks with me because I put it under my pillow when I'm sleeping in the hotel room because I have no idea what's going on there. And I don't always bring my the reader, that tells me what's going on. But my brother has one with him when he's at the events. We'll find the worst spot in the hall, and we'll bring our voltometer, and we'll teach people about how this is affecting them. And Dan DeBon wrote the book Radiation Nation, and he talks about Brain Tap as being the first line of defense for EMF poisoning because it puts the brain out of balance, just like any other stressor. It's an unseen stressor, but it's working on your body whether you think about it or not. Now, 20% of people will actually feel it. You know, they'll actually register, but that doesn't mean the other 80% aren't getting affected. They just aren't aware of it, or maybe they're out of touch with what their body feels like. So all of that is really important to keep balancing that brain, to keep it in perspective, because a dysregulated brain leads to dementia and Alzheimer's, which nobody wants.
Right. And I mean, the big thing here is, you guys, yes, huge for health, huge for staying grounded, staying in the moment, creating, but probably one of the biggest things is you're going to get in this flow state, and whatever you choose to do, you're going to do it at the highest level you've ever done it at. Whether it's make more money, be more productive, have more energy to do it, and all this fodder out there, it's just noise. It's like background noise. It's just going to go away, and you just stay so in tune and in the moment and present. And that's to me what I love about your products, and how incredible they've been for me and my clients for the last couple of decades.
Yeah. Well, I still do it. I mean, I've been doing it since the 80s, and I've not missed a day. So I'm going to keep doing it because it helps me. And I think that, you know, everybody has stress. I don't care who you are. If somebody tells me they don't have any stress, then I better check their pulse, because we thrive in stress, and that's how we build and develop who we are. But we need that recovery. So just remember, I like what the Dalai Lama said when somebody said, I don't have time to meditate. He said, then do it twice a day. You know, because people don't realize it's an essential. It's just like a vitamin, just like a multivitamin. We need that vitamin, and we've added that touch of light. So it's not just sound. It's binaural light, but it's not binaural at that point. We haven't figured out what we're going to call it. But the same thing that happens with sound, we're doing with light, and we're doing with frequency. So all of that plays into it. We're light, sound, and frequency beings, or energy beings. So we need to tune into that, feed our nature, and be more powerful, stronger, and have that resilience. Really what we're talking about is you got to have resilience to handle what's going on. You can't just wake up every morning, fight the battle without preparing your stores of resources.
Yeah, especially after you replenish, drain it. Like you're like, let me numb myself and drain it, and try to quiet my brain down by numbing and not feeling. And then how do you recharge the next day? Oh, get coffee going. And you have this bad cycle. And then I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff we can add in there, but that's a cycle we want to break. That's a cycle that we're going, hey, this isn't enhancing for your body. So let's change this. And you're so aware and connected on it. And I mean, your voice is so strong. So you guys check out braintap.com. Listen to Dr. Patrick Porter speak. He's an amazing speaker. I've seen him from everywhere, from Dave Asprey on to you name it. I mean, he's a keynote speaker at most of the events that I'm attending as well. And I'll speak out too. But he's a keynote one on it. And so it's just amazing, amazing wisdom. Appreciate it so much. And one other thing, I appreciate so much that you understand that we are waveform, beings, and everything has a resonance. And when we can tap into those frequencies of, the wavelengths of sound and light and frequencies and vibrations of all these different elements to put them into one product that allows you the most urban freedom in the moment that you've ever experienced. Wow. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Well, thank you. And when they do, they could go to braintap.info, but you should have a link that you can send them, and they get a free copy of my book, and they can try out the app for, I think, 15 days for free, and they don't even need a credit card. So, try it for yourself. The best test is when you do it, and you should share, Justin. I think we gave you a link. If not, we'll give you one for this event. Yeah, definitely. And I know we have some special things that we'll offer as well. So guys, stay tuned, but check out Patrick Porter. Hey, Patrick, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you. And you guys, get BrainTap, get on it, and stay in the moment, right? All right. Well, thank you. And we look forward to helping each of you reach your full potential. Thank you so much.